Hey everyone, this is a new sort of video for me. I've never really done the whole speaking and narration thing on YouTube, and I wanted to give it a try. Back in November, I tried to do a video explaining my limo part, and I went into great detail, planning everything out and trying to get fancy graphics and everything. But I burned out pretty quickly, so I think I'm just going to do more of a rant form video. Anyways, without further ado, today marks the third anniversary of Sunset Sandstorm, which is pretty crazy. It's been 3 years since I've dropped a level, which is both sad and cool, I guess. So I thought I would go over like a lot of the inspiration and ideas behind it, and do it like a more deep analysis. So I suppose I could start with the inspiration of the level. It should be pretty clear based on the cover art you're seeing that it was pretty much directly from this image. I was just getting back into Geometry Dash when this song dropped. I had played a year of Sound Dodger while taking a break from GD, and I had just finished Black Blizzard in October of 2018, and I wanted to try my hand at creating, and I thought that this song would be a perfect opportunity to do so. When I came up with the name Sunset Sandstorm to describe this image, I thought that was a really catchy name, so I thought I would continue on it. So it's definitely worth mentioning that before this level, I had very little creating experience. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of trying to represent the song the best I could, in kind of a similar vein that the way you do in Sound Dodger, where you're just trying to express the emotions of the song on the screen, and that's pretty much it. Um, I built these two pillars right here for the first sounds of the level, and I realized that the sound continues throughout this entire part. Oh, by the way, I chose this starting point in the song because I thought the second drop was better, but I still stand by that. So I didn't really plan for this part to go out as long as it did. In fact, when I was building the gameplay originally, I decided to switch the game mode somewhere like halfway through about here. But it just felt wrong because the song kept continuing, and it felt strange to take away the instrument visually, but not over audio. I guess if that makes sense. Because the sound keeps playing even though the visual's not there. So yeah, I thought it would be cool to just have a repeating pattern, and the song kind of carries it in the way that it's a repeating pattern, but then there are different sounds that come in on top of it, and it's pretty simple. I just tried to represent each of those sounds to the best I could, while making some pretty devilish gameplay in the process. Um, I thought this part was cool because it's kind of reminiscent of Black Blizzard. This was originally going to be a blue orb spam part, but that was way too hard for me, so definitely got rid of that. Most of this gameplay is kind of, I guess, my signature style, which is sort of expressing what I enjoyed in playing Geometry Dash levels into a level, right? The types of levels I enjoy are ones where all of the information you need is on screen. There's no like invisible indication or like strange hitboxes or whatever, or moving objects for that matter. I'll get to that later. I'm trying to build the most interesting gameplay I can with as few elements as possible. I think that's like that really sets my gameplay apart. Everything here is placed very carefully, I guess. For this part, I'm trying to design it in a way such that the intended route is the only possible solution. I'm trying to design it in a way in which the only possible way to do it is hit the green orb and then hit the pink orb, and just have all the difficulty there that needs to be, and nothing else. Like, you may notice that if you don't hit this green orb, you can just ride along this top portion, but as soon as you get to here, you're going to be dead because you can't, get to those blue orbs, obviously. So it's a lot of stuff like that, where I'm just trying to use gameplay elements in sort of clever, sort of not ways. And this is something I developed a lot further in Glide, and my level I'm working on now. Progress on that is still happening, by the way. I don't really have much to show right now, but I'll try to get something out before June, hopefully. Anyways, continuing on, this is definitely the hardest part of the level. I really, really liked this part. It's definitely like a difficulty spike. That goes without saying. I think anyone who's played this level can agree. You have to hit this green orb very late, so you can hit this red orb at the very bottom right and just barely clear the spike. If you hit the green orb at the wrong time, you won't get set up for the position properly, because you'll fall around here, which means that you won't be able to clear the triple spike or anything. And same goes if you just click the pink orbs too fast. Like, it's not even just about avoiding the spikes, you have to set yourself up to the correct position. And I thought that was really fun, so I kept that in. And then we have, of course, the blinding part. I thought it was hilarious. I didn't really know how to represent that part of the song without just doing a giant flash. And then I thought, well, if I'm just going to do a giant flash, I might as well design my gameplay around it, This level is a lot of that, of like getting something from the song trying to represent it visually, and then designing gameplay around that, I guess. Originally, this part was just looked like the pattern, but once I'd added the flash, I was like, well, if it's going to flash you in the face, I might as well take advantage of that to do something mean. And that's what this blue and green orb are for, just to make you annoyed. This section is another good example of trying to design hard gameplay with as few objects as possible. Obviously, I keep the pink orb and black orb around just because it's part of their pattern, but I really like this section in particular because it's very complicated on what you have to do, but it doesn't look that complicated. It's like, you could stare at this for a while and figure out what you have to do just by knowing that it's Minikube and slow, right? So what you have to do is hit this red orb relatively on the left side, and then you'll barely be able to reach this yellow orb, which you can hit, and then you'll jump on this platform. So you have to keep holding after this. So you have to jump on this platform, and then release, and then tap this yellow orb again, so you can just barely clear that spike. So it's a mechanic that's actually used in Black Blizzard as well, but it's used in a different way here, and I thought that was fun. This dash orb I thought was pretty funny as well. Again, I'm just trying to add like as few obstacles as possible while still making it only work in the way I wanted it to work. That being said, there are plenty of skips in this level, which I'm fine. I'm never going to change those. Y'all can use those however you want. I don't care. So here with these toggle orbs, it was the introduction of the dun, 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 and I wanted to represent that the best I can. You can see that they're not actually synchronized. They should be halfway between these two blocks, but this one is late, this one is early, because that's how they actually play in the song. I thought this part was kind of fun. I didn't know how to actually show this gameplay down here, so I just kind of had it flash over for a second. All of these objects are layered under the effects, so I couldn't really show that easily. And then again, this is just like more of the same kind of thing they'll talk about. So then getting to the decoration. The first thing I did, I believe, this was the first effect I made after coming back to Geometry Dash after like a year. It's just like a loop, like these set of pulse orbs, just have it go in a loop. It's a very, very subtle detail. You probably haven't even noticed it unless I'm pointing it out to you now. I just thought it represented the harmonica in a cool way. It was just like a cool thing to kind of start off. It's very, very not noticeable. It's a very subtle thing. So then, as I'm adding more decorations, I'm kind of asking myself, how can I add things in a way that complements the theme that I'm going for, right? So my idea is I want to have this be, a very, very slow build-up, which it is. It lasts like 48 seconds or something. So I wanted to represent that visually, of course. So, I started with this ground here that was rising up, and I thought I'd go for like reflections in the blocks instead of any sort of like concrete material, just because I wanted to stick more with the sun theme. I didn't want to do like any like Egyptian or desert stuff, which people seem to do a lot when it comes to desert theme, I guess. Like, most desert theme levels have some sort of pyramid in it. I guess it's just like a thing. But I just wanted to keep it like mostly just about the song and not really necessarily about any structures, It's just kind of the sunset and the sandstorm, and that's kind of all there is. And the glittering, I think, is a good representation of that. And then these effects here are just a result of me messing with lines and rotations. I forget exactly what I did, 'cause it's been a while, but I thought it looked cool. So that's pretty much the first part. The only other thing I can say is that in order to represent the build-up, the level goes higher, which you can see on this gradient here. That means that it gets lighter as it goes up. And also, the color gradually shifts the further you go forward. It gets a little bit more red. And I added that after I did this part. So this part originally was just going to have the exact same color scheme as the previous part. In fact, I don't think I ever actually changed the color of these sine wave blocks. They just glow stacked on top of each other. They're still the exact same tan color, it's just over an orange background, so you can't really tell. But then I added pulses for the background to try to represent the sort of alternation that's going on in the song. And then I really liked what it did, so then I designed the rest of the part around that. So the first thing I did, of course, was make these pillars moving in. And I decided it would be a ship, and then a UFO, and then a wave. And then I liked the idea of continuing the theme from the first part with repeating patterns breaking as the song breaks. So, like, it's very much just like, except for the melodies, you're just kind of following the wave motion, which is why I included so many waves here. We got these waves, we got those waves, we got some objects moving in the background in like a kind of a waveform. And then these objects, I guess, could be described as a wave, although it's pretty linear. Um, yeah, so then this was also just a matter of trying to design the best I could um, hard gameplay while using as little as I can do. Um, so these black lines here are just to prevent you from going to the center, and I wanted to make sure that was clear that you had to go through the block, so I had it flash black because that was a pretty high contrast color in this section. And then I did more of that throughout the rest of the part. I really like the wave part because, once again, that alternation, I thought switching between portals was a really funny trick. And then it result. You can memorize the way to do this part, but it also just works by like spamming all the way through it, and it's not a huge deal. But I thought the part was cool nonetheless, so I didn't. I thought about having it be a mini wave, but you could go under these blocks as they moved in, which was an issue, and I didn't want to add like ground spikes or anything because I just thought it would look bad. So I just kept it as a big wave, which makes it the easiest part in the level by far. One thing I'm still really proud of is I really like how I did the trigger work in this part in particular. This part had a very, very like steady beat, so I was able to represent that with the triggers pretty well. Creo songs happened to be at 60 BPM, which works really well in Geometry Dash because that's something lines up with the way the blocks move or whatever. So I just like had everything moving in and out, and it, because I organized it by row, it looks really nice when you look at it. This is still one of my favorite parts I've ever made in really anything. This is my favorite part in this level for sure. Yeah, so then we get to the drop. I struggled for a long time. I believe I built the drop gameplay on a stream. That VOD is probably gone now, but pretty much all of this I think was built on stream except for the last ball. And it was just, I just started with an outline. I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do. This is where the drop comes in, so I wanted to make sure that this was the climax of the song. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. The drop is, of course, the climax of the song. So I thought the best way to represent that would be to finally show the sun, you know, because in previous parts it's just kind of like the sand in your face, like you're not really seeing much in front of you. I wanted to create the feel that you're surrounded. But in this part, I wanted it to clear up so you could see the sun, you could see all the colors, and then it just make it like super vibrant, which I think I succeeded pretty well with. I still really like the gameplay in this part. This blue orb I kept in. It's just a remnant of the original gameplay I was trying to make, but it was too hard. It's still possible to do, actually, I believe, where you can jump here and then hit the very bottom right corner of the blue orb and then get to this, but you don't have to do that at all. This is the funny D block. I didn't know... I guess I forgot the difference between S and D blocks, so that's just kind of there, and it's been there. But I don't really plan on changing it. It does absolutely nothing, so you can just hold this dash orb all the way to this part while skipping these blue orbs, which is funny. Once again, I was sticking to the theme of like the sort of refracting and glittering type of deal with these blocks right here, because they move in like that, you know, cool pattern where it has like the kind of, it's almost like a visual reverb to it, you know, where it like has like a trail with low opacity, I guess. I still really like the stair part. I know that you can skip it really easily, but whatever, I don't really care. I didn't know what I was doing with colors at this time. I still don't, by the way. Its colors are really, really hard. I just decided, the first thing I made with this was this gradient background, and that's pretty much just like a bunch of objects slowly shifting hue as we go up. That's pretty much all it is. They're all in the same color channel, which makes it nice for effects later. And again, most of these are just like variations on the same color. Like I like to do a lot of hue shifting of the same color instead of just having a different color for everything. Oh, by the way, I did not know how to use blending at this time. There's very little, if at all, blending in this level. If there is, I don't even know where it is. Pretty much every sort of like the opacity effects is done with alpha triggers, which is really funny because that's a really bad way to do it. So the hills are obviously to convey the theme better, and then all this gameplay is just me trying to best represent the song in the best way I can. Once again, sticking to the same design philosophy of trying to do the most with as little as possible. And I think I accomplished that pretty well. This part, of course, is a favorite. The little waves I made here still remind me of Hotline Miami, in a way. I should feel like it has that same kind of like retro 90s, I don't know, 90s, some era. I still really like this effect. This effect is exactly the same in Glide as well. I think I made it in Glide, then use it here. It was one of those like last minute additions. Because I made this level before Glide, by the way, in case you didn't know that. And it's done in a way so where it moves by frame over and over again, so the dots look like they're going up and down in a sinusoidal fashion. So there's like a spawn loop or something over here. Yeah, here it is. And that just moves it left over a certain period of time, that many, just in small increments to make the wave form. Again, I thought like these pillars moving really fast was a good representation of the song. That's obviously the repeating theme here. Representing the song is really just what I'm trying to do best. And once again, the flashing colors. I know like the flashing green doesn't really make sense in the context of a sandstorm, but it's just me trying to add like hue shifting in a way that feels like it's like almost like a, you know, acid trip or something. Something else important, I think, that I see get messed up in a lot of levels is I made sure to include plenty of contrast. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't use white because most colors are relative to each other, and you don't have to use absolutes like white and black all the time. But that's something for someone else to explain to you. I don't really know color theory all that well. But it's important to make sure that your structures in the front stand out really well from the structures in the background, right? Like, I didn't add like any sort of air deco that makes it unclear whether it was part of the gameplay or not, right? I see that get messed up a lot, so that's just something I thought would be worth pointing out. And again, these like little flower patterns are just me screwing around with rotations and slopes and opacity, and just I thought it looked cool, so I just like kind of put them over every block because it was just some sort of air deco. A lot more of the same here. Pretty much the rest of this drop is just kind of the same ideas as the start. I think I executed a little bit poorly as it went on, but again, I liked using like the hue shifting here to try to represent the this is that pretty sharp note in the song, and I thought it would need to be represented with a pretty sharp contrasting effect. Then we get to the ball part. This swing copter I think is probably the worst portion of gameplay in the level. I don't really like it that much because I had to put a bunch of invisible objects on the bottom and top to make the swing copter actually work, and that just leads to a bunch of like quirky, kind of not that good gameplay. I definitely wouldn't do this nowadays, but it still works well with the song, I guess. Oh yeah, you used to be able to skip under this. I think you still can. No, I patched it recently, and this is just like some easy gameplay to close it out. I really like levels where it's hard at the beginning and then gets easier as you go on. And the reason that is because I think it develops a really good sense of tension, which is kind of the most important factor in this entire level. So of course this start of the level is super grindy, and that's not necessarily fun, but what makes it fun is that when you get to this part, because you've been grinding the start so much, you feel like a lot of tension, you know? It's like, as the drop is building up, you actually feel like it's important, and I feel like that makes the drop a lot more impactful in a way that like you're gonna remember it more. In the levels where you have like a super simple beginning and you get to the drop every attempt, like, you know, Poltergeist, a lot of classic Nine Circles levels, the drop doesn't carry any impact, because if you get to it every attempt, it's just like, oh, okay, well, I mean, the effect kind of wears off after you a while. Whereas in this level, I feel when you get to the drop, it's a very important moment. Like, oh, like holy shit, guys, I'm at the drop, shut up. And then all of the vibrant effects are like stuff that you don't get to see that often, so it makes them even more impactful, I guess. Again, using that sense of tension to build an impact. So thinking on that like a sort of non-physical level, which I guess is a pretty important factor in this level. I think oftentimes people would just build things and try to make them look as good as possible, and then that's it. And they don't really think about the design past that. Like, you have to remember that this is a game, and levels in this game are meant to be played, not watched, typically. I mean, you can make stuff to watch. I'm not going to stop you, but what I like to see, and what I like to play, is levels that are meant to be played, not levels that are meant to be watched. So the gameplay, of course, takes precedence over the decoration. Priority. I think precedence is the wrong word. So yeah, there's a lot of that. And then that would get to the last ball, which is not really anything special. This was me just trying to close it out. The idea of these lines moving over each other to form solid blocks I got from a GIF. I don't know where that is. It's gone. It's not exactly copied. I use different shapes, but same idea. And then here's what I want to talk about moving objects. I was able to get away with moving these objects here because it's in a uniform pattern, right? Like, all of these objects are just going up, and that's it. So you can know what's coming, I guess, is the way to put it. So, like, as the objects are moving up, you have to plan around the moving accordingly. It's not just everything pops up before you, and then fades out in some cool way, you know? I feel like I see that a lot, and I feel like it's a pretty important thing to mention. Moving objects are a lot more fun when they're in a very uniform and predictable pattern. It's not when you're trying to like move every single object in place as you get to it, you know? And these effects were kind of rushed, honestly. I just wanted to finish the level, which is why I get that overlap there. It's kind of ugly, but whatever. And then, so I wanted to continue this level. I wanted to go all the way to the end of the song. If you watch the video for Outlaw, you can see that at the end of the song, it fades out to like a night sky. And I wanted to do the same thing here because I thought that was a cool sense of progression. Like, you know, you start with like the midday and you get to the sunset, and then the fade out, I guess, is like the ending. And the sort of progression kind of like falling up, where it's just like really subtle and not really put in your face at all. And I did make some gameplay for that a while ago. I think it's deleted now. I had like a pretty thorough plan of like what I wanted to do with the ending, but the reason why I never did it is because I am very bad at duels and duel gameplay, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with a duel, and I wanted to follow like this, you know, the similar structure of Black Blizzard. I think if I just continued to do single player stuff, it would have kind of lost its edge, I guess, that it had in the first drop. So I guess the common themes you're seeing here is trying to do as much as I can with as little as possible. Like, when you scroll over this level, you can see that there's really not that many blocks. And everything's in, like, pretty predictable patterns, except until the drop. I think that when you design something where you have to analyze the blocks that you're looking at and then plan accordingly, it makes for much more interesting gameplay than when you're just, like, following a series of clicks, you know? Like, I see a lot of gameplay where it's like a bunch of invisible paths that lead into, and then you just click when all the music syncs, and it like changes game modes every second, and that's just like hard to follow, especially if you're playing it for the first time. I mean, you know, that doesn't matter in Extreme Demon, but I feel like when you allow a game mode to develop more, it's easier to leave an impact and make more memorable structures, you know? So I feel like most of these structures, like because of like their symmetry and the way they're used to the song, I feel like they definitely leave an impact on you. Like, especially stuff like this part right here with the moving and structures. Because it isn't so cluttered and this is like the only thing on the screen and it represents the song, it's a very, very much in the foreground, and that like leaves an impact, which is what I was going for. That's one of the main goals of this level. And there's a lot of that throughout the level. I still don't really like these block designs. They're kind of ugly, but it's the best I could do at the time. I didn't know what I was doing at this point in time. I still don't really. But this was the best I could do, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, needless to say. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the insight I can give behind the level, without going into the nitty-gritty of like all the different effects and everything. Most of that was pretty intuitive. Like, you know, most of these effects right here are just stuff moving up and down. It's just like flashing colors and different patterns, and it's all just trying to represent the song. That's the one thing in common throughout all of these effects. Like, the pulses here, the spawn loop is for the little guys right here, which go to the clap, and that's supposed to like represent like the percussion in the song. I don't even remember what half this stuff does. I think this is like the glittering on the block designs and stuff. But yeah, this level was a lot of work, especially for me. I tend to overthink things a lot, which is why, you know, I haven't seen anything from me in a while. I'd overthink everything. I feel like this level, a part of the reason why it did so well is because it has a very easy to follow structure, and it matches the song really well, I think. You know, the sense of build-up where it's like midday and it gets to the sunset and then it's the drop. It's a very like engaging sort of atmosphere, engaging sort of tension. I really like songs where the music starts off quiet and then builds up as it goes, which is pretty common in electronic music, fortunately, on Newgrounds, but even beyond that, like post-rock and a bunch of other stuff. I think it's great when you have like the ascending tension, and it works especially well in this game because you don't see the drop that often, so it holds a lot more impact, like I was talking about earlier. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If I were to remake this level now, there's a lot of things I would do differently. Like, a lot of these structures are pretty ugly. I'm still not very good at block designs. I try my hardest, but this was the best I could do. I'm not really an artistic person. I'm much more like STEM brain in the sense that I like patterns and all that kind of stuff, which is what you see in this level. Like, you know, you get the pattern of the first part, the pattern in the second part, and pattern, etc. Um, yeah, that's about it, other than a few Easter eggs. I just remembered that. If you die to the side of this block right here, you get an L instead of a sun. Oh, I guess I can talk about that. The sun, I thought it was good just to have like an icon to represent the level. Obviously the sun isn't my own icon. It's a pretty standard depiction of a sun. But I thought that giving the level an icon would make it so that it gives the level like a character and like some sort of like logo that you can think of. Like when you see that sun in the colors, you think of this level, right? Like, and I wanted to make sure I did that in the thumbnail as well. Like I wanted to make sure that the thumbnail was just the gradient and the icon, and that's it. Just so you can, when you see that icon, you think of this level. It's the same thing I do with my logo, right? Like by not changing my logo ever until recently, when I just rebranded. It creates a sense of like when you see my logo, you think of me, or at least I hope, right? Like if you change your logo constantly, you definitely lose that. Where you lose that sense of association, you know. So I think sticking to an icon for both a level and as a profile picture and whatever else you want to is a pretty good idea to get, I guess, impact and attention. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of. Most of these other things are just trying to fill space. I didn't like this isn't definitely not my best work, but it is what it is. All right, so thank you so much for watching.